Hello there. Welcome to the Kirk Minahan wrap-up show for April 28th, 2021. Um, Today's show was called Brandon Walker and Bet because I don't even know if I should say it. So a popular podcast host. So I'm joined, as always, on the Wednesday episodes with Tim and Canton.
Hey, buddy.
What's happening? Short show today. I thought it was fun. It was a little bit more of a more serious show. I do think that it kind of started off goofy with Brandon Walker call, and he's always he like is just the personality of wrestling because none of this
That's all I could think of. It's a wrestling character. He's a BFF of Kirk's. They're frenemies. He plays the role. He definitely plays the role well.
Yeah, whenever I hear him talk, when they called him today and they were like, "What?" It's like,
yeah,
okay, so you're going to start off in the pissy attitude, and Kirk was laughing. So Brandon Walker was upset that it sounds like that it's definite now that both Steve and Kirk are not going to be going down to South Carolina.
I think the bigger issue is it's not so much that Kirk and Steve and Jared won't be in New York. It's that Brandon moved from Mississippi, where he was an award-winning journalist.
I think so.
And he uprooted the family and moved to New Jersey, and still just pissed off that he's even there, and just lashes out where he can.
I think Brandon the way I see it is I see Brandon kind of says, well, I had to move to New York when I got hired by Barstool. Why didn't Kirk? Not knowing that Kirk was this huge personality.
Right. Not even
I don't know if you know
conversation.
If you know the backstory on how Brandon Walker actually got hired.
The gambling, right?
Yes.
Dave Starr's gambling show. Yeah. He is a very hard worker.
Yes. I like Brandon. I've walked the line for many years now.
Yeah.
But it's just funny whenever he gets on to when he goes after Kirk, because it's all in fun.
I can't wait for Minifan to dig up the award that he got for his journalism, which was being a sports writer. Which
and then he said he was then he said he was an executive of a newspaper in 3 different states that weren't Mississippi. He said
I think it wasn't Mississippi in one of them. I thought it was Florida, Mississippi,
Georgia.
But I don't doubt for a second that he was. I mean, you and I could start a newspaper tomorrow and give ourselves awards. It's very easy, especially these days, right? Even back then, you could start a newspaper. How long it would last is up to how much ad revenue you can generate or subscription. So I don't doubt that at all. But he was very, very coy, and that he didn't say the name because it wouldn't be recognizable. I mean, Kirk could have hit him with the fact that he was part of the Sumac Street Gazette when he was growing up, and that he was
an award-winning dancer,
right?
Or something.
And he was editor-in-chief of that newspaper. I have a feeling it was the Sumac Gazette on steroids for Brandon, but really it was a no-name newspaper.
Did you know that's actually how Dave Portnoy started out Barstool? It was a newspaper.
No.
It was a newspaper. You didn't know that?
It was?
Yes. It was a newspaper, and Dave, I believe he's on record somewhere saying that he wasn't selling any ad spaces, so he would just put in an advertisement for Hooters or something to give the illusion that he had ads.
I am very, very aware of Dave's newsletter. Not paper, but his newsletter. Yep. When I lived in Dorchester, I used to take the Red Line, and Dave was helping people out even then, because he had homeless people handing out his newsletters on the T. But he's a hustler too. That's how he started out. Yeah, I know that full well.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think my main takeaway from that is it sounds like the boys aren't going to New York. I'm sure they'll be able to do it remotely.
Yeah. Sounds interesting what they're doing, right?
Yes, I think they gave a very good reason as to why they're not going. It's not just I know a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about, they're like, well, too busy working on the case, so we're not going to be able to go. Now it sounds like they might be needed down in South, or there might be a reason for them to go back down to South Carolina.
Kirk has said in the past that the sheriff, one of the sheriffs that they were working with, has said, if something develops from this, you will be recognized. So something to that effect. So I'm assuming it's along those lines, which is amazing. So excited to see what happens there.
Which is, but Kirk did jump on this later, and it kind of when I first listened to it, I thought, ooh, that's not a good sound. That's just not a good quote. When Brandon goes, this girl's been dead for 30 years. What's another week? And it's like, oh, that's not a good
I mean, technically he's right. But that is actually, I'm glad that he said that, because this is not your average true crime podcast. They're doing investigative journalism. They're not just telling the story. Like Brandon, if he's been, it was a good dig at Kirk, but I know that he's been listening, and this is different. It is not just telling the story of what happened to this poor girl. It's actually investigating what happened, and it's still on. It's back from cold case files, and looks like it's going to pick up with activity. So that's what makes this podcast so great.
Oh, it makes it so unique, because I mean, a lot of cold case podcasts or Netflix series are just, so this is what happened in the 80s, and this is what we know, and he ended up getting arrested, and it's just kind of revisiting. This is kind of them doing actual police work.
Yeah.
In the in the sense of things.
There's a podcast I listen to. It's a true crime one, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it was a Boston focused one. And I mean, this guy, all he really did was Google and talk about it, which was interesting, but he couldn't even pronounce the girl's name right. Her name, I think it was Karina Holmer. Listen, I'm not doing the podcast, so I don't need to know the exact name, but I was getting frustrated because I remember it's not Christina. That part I knew. And I'm thinking, you're doing a freaking podcast. So anyway, that's just a run of the mill, quote unquote, true crime podcast. Kirk is creating somewhat of a new genre, if you ask me. Which is
he really
awesome.
is. He really is, and it sounds like it's only going to go up. He did drop a little Easter egg somewhere in the podcast today, where they said, "What was it? Something's going to be happening." Oh, the Wilbur. They're confident in the Wilbur in January. And Kirk said, "We will probably be in the midst of season 2 by then." So
yeah, in Uganda, because said before they met.
Yeah. So it makes you think, like, oh, I'm sure that Kirk and Steve have been looking around, and they might have an idea for what they want to do for season 2 and stuff of that. But it's but yeah, no, I mean, Brandon Walker, he's just a wrestling character. He's honestly, it was funny when Kirk said, well, I mean, I know you won't be saying that because, you're looking to get a job with either AEW, WWE. Right. He goes, you are absolutely telling the truth there. Right. And it's just
good for him. Good for him.
I do think he's good at trash talking. That kind of seems to be his theme in the Dozen tournament. So
warm fuzzies. The guy can't just he is a baby on trivia. You've watched the trivia.
Yes. Oh, he'll just leave the room.
Baby. Oh my God. Shut up and sit down, Brandon.
Oh, if there was ever a Kirk versus Brandon battle, it would be, Kirk would be in Brandon's head before it even started.
Right. Wouldn't even be close. Brandon would be crying, getting up, walking out. Yeah. But again, that's his wrestling persona.
Yes, he did tip his cap at the end though and say, like, you are like the best trivia person at Barstool. So I mean,
there's no debating that. I mean, he's ranked number 1 individually.
So there has been an update to the whole Erica Nardini, Ben Shapiro scandal. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. Erica Nardini
and who?
Ben. Fuck.
Huh? You better. I hope you got a dump button, my friend.
Ben tiny Jewish guy has a big podcast. The Ben Shapiro thing. So last night I was listening to some old, not old, but like catching up on some of last week's podcasts that I normally listen to. And I was I saw that Erica Nardini had Kelly Martin on. And my thought was, oh, well, I mean, Kelly Martin, not a friend of the show. Let's see if she goes on and says anything about anything to do with Kirk. And I'm listening. And I thought it was a joke. I kind of had the same reaction Kirk did. I was like, I mean, everyone knows that Dave Portnoy went on the Ben Shapiro show, and it was pretty obvious that they were talking about Ben Shapiro. I wasn't sure if my first thought was, oh my goodness, what is Erica Nardini calling Ben Shapiro? But re-listening back to it, I just couldn't believe it. So I sent Steve the audio and was like, maybe like you guys have the explanation for this. And it sounds like there has been an update. Sounds like apparently the word is that when that podcast was released, it wasn't out there that Dave
had been on yet.
That Dave was going on the Ben Shapiro show, so that's why they bleeped it out.
What? But what's the reasoning behind that? They didn't want to give it publicity.
I don't know. I mean,
Or was it they didn't want people to know because then they might call for Dave to not go on and pressure him to not go on? I'm not sure what I don't know, but it's gone from Barstool to Spotter Stool over there. The fucking inmates are running the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
All these woke assholes think that they should, you want to have a say, and that's the culture that they're in. Fine, but you know what? You're not the fucking boss. Erica is, and so are Dave. And by the way, last time I checked, Ben Shapiro is nothing more than a conservative podcaster. He's not Adolf Hitler. So they can all just go fuck off and wait till they get older and realize that not everybody agrees with them and everything they think isn't right. And then people start canceling them.
See,
it can't come soon enough.
People keep saying that to like people in my generation, older and younger. Like, oh, wait till you get out to the real world. But I think this is just the real world now.
No, I don't mean in the real world. I mean when someone comes for them. Because they're going to come from them. There, people like that are never, ever, ever, ever satisfied. It's a machine, and the machine eats itself in the end. They are never satisfied. So they think they're being woke, and some of them, I'm sure, do have true convictions. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they're so unbending, inflexible, and basically tyrannical, they want to shut down free speech. It's coming for them because there's going to be someone that comes along and says, I don't like what Kelly Martin has to say. And boom, she's gone. It's going to happen.
Yeah, so obviously it's like it's not my podcast. I have no problem with anyone who wants to self-censor themselves about anything. My only question was this Erica Nardini's doing, or was it the producer or someone, someone beneath her just going like, fuck Ben Shapiro. We're just going to, a Josh or something like that.
Like a K Marco.
Yeah, a K Marco, a Josh, someone of that stature. But it sounds like it all kind of got together. And the real reason is that the interview wasn't out yet. So I'm sure they'll touch on that.
I still don't understand the reasoning behind that because
I'm not entirely sure.
Right. I know what you're saying. Like if it wasn't out yet, so why would you bleep it? If it was out, then you'd be promoting people to listen to it. Like, people that might not normally listen to Ben Shapiro are not going to become Ben Shapiro fans if they don't like Ben Shapiro. Like Kirk has always said, it drove him crazy that you couldn't talk about a radio station that was a competitor when everybody listening, everybody in the room knew exactly, so dumb. So let me run over there and check it out.
They would always say across the street. They'd be like, I was listening across the street.
It's like, oh, I wonder who they're talking about. It's just dumb. Wow. But as Kirk has said, that's a non-creative type person making those decisions. Just like he mentioned, is a little segue for you about Dan Le Batard. Nobody listens to Dan Le Batard. He's terrible. But the executives went and told the number one show in Boston to lay off a guy who got less than 0 ratings. I take that back. What did he get? 0.1?
I think he said 0.0.
Yeah. And they listened to Dan Le Batard. So I don't get it. Like Kirk said, and same with Howard Stern. The rumor is he get that $5 million, 120 million for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Nobody's listening to him. Nobody.
I mean that I think Kirk put it perfectly when he said that these companies are willing to lose money in order to go woke.
Yep.
I mean, I could go down to, I could call up Netflix and say that, one of their TV shows, Big Mouth, is super offensive, blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, they would take that into account. When in reality, they should be like, I don't know who the fuck you are. Right. Don't fucking watch it.
Right.
It's making us money. But now, I don't know. Nowadays, it's just like, well,
I mean, and it's not to say people who aren't woke don't have great shows. It's that they seem to be more aware of how to generate listenership, being bombastic, combative. That gets listeners. It's show business. It is show business. So I think I was going to say, I think the right tends to own more of that on the radio airwaves because they know that it gets listenership and it gets people revved up. And then when it comes to TV, the left owns TV. Late night shows are all left. So it's different medias have different slants, but Dan Le Batard is just terrible.
Yeah, and I don't even think it comes down to I don't necessarily think Kirk and Steve were going after Dan Le Batard for being
No,
woke or
no,
anything. I
not
think
at
it's
all.
just he's boring. You can be woke and you can be entertaining. There's plenty of podcasts out there, Chapo Trap House, Pod Save America,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
are more entertaining than Dan Le Batard. But Dan Le Batard's just an easy, like, oh, he's not gonna cause any
I
trouble.
agree. He's not a woke guy. He's not controversial. So the woke crowd loves him. That's Kirk's point, and that's what I took it to be. Was Kirk's point is the guy's terrible, but he's also non-threatening. So everybody loves that.
Yeah,
I don't know who listens. I've never once in my life heard someone quote something from Dan Le Batard show. Saying, did you hear what they said?
I did not know that show was on in the Boston area.
Yeah, I remember when it was for a little while. I think it's been gone though for a long time.
Well,
Is it still around here?
That's probably he's still probably floating around doing
what a horrible something. Show.
But it's yeah, I can't imagine that. And I mean, speaking of someone who's woke or pretends to be, fucking Bill Simmons, man. I remember when he was like funny, like just back in the day. He would, he was a big sports hardo, but he was always funny with his takes, and he wasn't afraid to, kind of talk shit with people, and it was kind of like just, I don't know, guys hanging out. Now he's bringing on some, Black Lives Matter organizer to talk about the shooting of Ma'Khia Brown.
I'm not sure of her name, but I know it was in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah,
it was the two girls. One was attempting to murder the other. Yeah,
and you just have this guy talking about he kept bringing up the professionalism and the skill it takes to be a police officer. Like, I didn't see any skill. I didn't see any skill. I didn't see any skill. Just, I don't know. That guy's just a fucking asshole, if you ask me. Who's probably never had to make a tough decision in his life like that police officer. I mean, this hits close to home. I do
want to agree with something he kind of mentioned about, if it were a pencil. I've seen people stabbed with pencil. You get lead poisoning. I saw someone I didn't see when I was in school. A kid was walking down the hall with a pen in his mouth. Someone high-fived him and missed and hit the pen, and his jaw is still fucked up 20 years later.
Damn.
Pens and pencils are dangerous, man. But I will say this. You get caught using a number 1 pencil, not a number 2, you deserve to be shot. Those things suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
The soft lead. Oh, they're the worst pencils in the world. What an ass hat that guy is.
Yeah, he was just pulling these things out of his ass. Oh, I've seen teachers all the time. Yeah. Once again, just blowing the dick of teachers, as I think has been the theme of the past year and a half, is just, oh, we don't need cops, we need teachers. Teachers staying home. We don't need this, we need more teachers. Well,
the bigger, like Kirk was saying, that's what the guy does. That's why he had him on. That's what he does. And, that's his role. And now it's become his job. But his bigger thing was what a pussy Simmons is. I never listened to Simmons, so I know you're a fan, but I've heard the same from other people that used to listen to it. Yeah. And the fact that he just there's no interaction, there's just laying down, not even asking questions. And that seemed like a guy who would give you an answer to anything you would ask. And that can be very, very entertaining. And instead he just tucked his tail, man. I'm glad I never listened to him, because now I have nothing to compare it to. It just sounds lousy.
Yeah, my question was, why exactly was he interviewing him in the first place? I mean, so let's compare Simmons to Portnoy for a second. I know they're two very different, but they both kind of have upstarted like a company kind of from the ground up. Simmons has The Ringer, Portnoy has Barstool. Portnoy's not going to go and interview something about a current event that he has no interest in. He's going to interview the Rob. Go for it.
I would say he would, as long as there was green behind it. Dave is very consistent and said it's all about the green. It's all about, he'll say that, the green, the money. So Dave would do it if it made sense from a financial standpoint. That he's very consistent about.
You think Dave would go on Fox News or CNN and talk about the rioting? Or
yep.
I don't think so. I think
1,000%. Hasn't he been on Jim Cramer? Nobody thought he
talking
could do
about money.
Yeah, exactly. So
he cares about that. I don't think
he cares about money. When 2 years ago, was Dave doing stocks?
No, but now it's something he cares about.
Right.
Do you think he would just up in the blue go on Fox News and start talking about the killing of black
I
people
don't
by
think Dave
police.
would go on to talk about social issues unless it made sense from a financial standpoint. And there was some aspect there that really would blow the stock price out of the water for whatever reason. Maybe it gets a global audience, something like that. He's been on Tucker too, right?
Oh yeah, he's been on Tucker. He's been
Yeah.
on, I mean, the Ben Shapiro show.
What?
You
Which,
know,
by the way,
he's
I'm with Kirk. That that show is just I find it so boring, and I think it's because of and this is going to shock people like Julie DeCaro that think that people don't listen to her because she's a female. Sometimes people don't like your voice. I can't stand Ben Shapiro's voice. Can't stand it.
I think Ben Shapiro is hilarious, but he's unintentionally hilarious. Like have you seen that picture and video of him like standing outside Home Depot with a
Nobody
plank of
calls
wood?
it a piece of poplar. It's a piece of wood.
He's like, I just went to Home Depot.
Right,
I'm only
right.
going to be shopping at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And it's like, what exactly how often does Ben fucking Shapiro go to Home Depot? I'm going to assume
less than he goes to the clothes store and gets those skinny jeans. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was, I don't know. I find him hilarious. I like him in bits.
Unintentionally funny. I got you. Like a certain producer on the KMS.
That's right. But what the last point I wanted to talk about today, I didn't really see anything really in the calls. The calls were kind of, there were some case calls that were interesting,
right? Yeah.
And then I don't get when these people call in and they're like, "Oh, Kirk, I have an idea for season 2 of the case."
I love that. Yes, I can imagine Kirk just like going like this to Steve, or his eyes are rolling back in his head.
I'm just like waiting for it.
If he had a hang up button, I think we'd just nuke it. I do like that because I can only imagine what he's thinking. Like, okay, yeah, I'm doing, you're saying,
yeah. So,
speaking of saying, how much blood do you think rushes to Steve's nether regions when he says the phrase or the word ground penetrating radar, like he did about the case today when they were talking about going back to the yard to have that. Someone asked about digging it up, and Steve said it like 2 or 3 times. Ground penetrating radar.
I'm not sure. I could see he.
I think he loves
he gets
that
aroused
phrase
more when they're talking about. I think he likes it when the Liberals are winning because then he just goes on a tear. I think he likes it when Chris Cuomo says something stupid and gets away with it because then you can tell when SE's on.
Yes, you can tell when he switches it to SE mode. But then that to me when he says ground penetrating radar, that is Sheriff Steve.
Yes,
that's Sheriff Steve, the investigator. Yeah, he gets in that mode, which is
or like they mentioned it on Monday when how Steve sometimes in the case would be like, yeah, so you just want to get the fuck out of Brockton.
Yeah, right, Sheriff Steve, on the mean streets.
Oh, I love it, but it's but yeah, I mean, it was a quick show today.
Yep.
Whitney was supposed to be on. Sounds like he had something. He had other plans. I'm sure something came up. He's a very busy man himself. Looking forward to Carabas on Friday.
As always, love when Jared's on.
Yes, no, the Kowloon thing is still happening, by the way. It's gonna be a fun time.
So did you sell that out yet?
No. So if you're still interested, just reach out to me and we'll figure something out. But I'm sure that's going to be a colossal failure. But anyway, Tim,
how many
people
do you have so far?
Around 40.
Oh, didn't you say the max is like 50 or how many?
50.
It's 90% full with my math.
80% full. Yeah, it's we'll get there. We'll get there. So,
well, why is it going to be a failure? You're really just looking to get people there.
Oh, I'm just hoping
mingle,
I
right?
don't know, people, just have a decent time.
Yeah.
But it's so Tim,
might be doing
else you want to?
Yeah. Speaking of the Kowloon, I put it out there on Twitter yesterday, and I had a few people respond. We might be doing a live KMS trivia.
Oh, that's awesome.
At the Kowloon, yeah. So I'll follow up with you on that. But that would be a great time. I just have some scheduling to make sure. I'm already paid, but I gotta just double check some scheduling to be sure I'll be there. What time was it kicking off?
6 p.m.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. So I think we're gonna probably have a live KMS show, and then I know you said you're gonna get that episode 2 up which is a great
Oh, that's right.
trivia episode. That was the OGs versus I forget the name of the other team, the Cousins. That was a pretty good show.
Yes. Awesome. So anything else you want to talk about, Tim?
That's it, my friend. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Hey, anytime. Thank you for listening, everyone who's listening, and I will talk to you again tomorrow with Harrison on the Case Wrap.